Hello and welcome to another edition of IIABCal Voices. I'm your host, James Lott Jr. I used to work in the entertainment, I don't work in it now, but I used to work in the industry of insurance for 11 years. And I'm now back after all this time period working with IIABCal. I used to work with them when they were at IBA West back in the day, and I worked for the Insurance Sales Center portion of that. But I get to talk to people in the industry who are doing amazing things. And there's a thing coming up called the InsurPATH Virtual Conference, November 4th through 2nd, 2020. It's literally coming right up. And I've been speaking with each of the speakers and presenters of the conference. And I mean, so far they're all wonderful. This one, you're gonna love this guy also. I did some research on him. I watched his TEDx talk. Yes, I did. TEDx McMinnville, Should Self-Interest Motivate Service? Loved it. He also is a person who uses his last name like I do for many projects. He's the chief galvanizer for the Galvanizing Group. I support that completely. I love that he uses his name. We're gonna get to, he has a book out called The Connector's Way. We're gonna talk about all of this and what he's presenting at the conference. My new friend, Patrick Galvin. Hi, Patrick.
Hey, James, I've been so excited to talk to you.
Same here, no, same here. So I watched your TEDx talk. Loved it. Loved it. Now,
Thank you.
I want to tell people, because some people are like, what does that mean? You know what that means. Kind of explain what a TEDx, there's a certain time period. So tell me what a TEDx talk is.
So the TEDx concept is that you're sharing an idea that inspires. And it could be any sort of idea. You're limited in time, and let me tell you, it's harder to speak shorter than longer. So
Yes.
Our organization gave us 13 minutes apiece to talk. So mine clocked in exactly at 13 minutes, I think in 5 seconds. And in that, I was sharing a passion that came from a experience that was not successful. So I was talking about the importance of how you recruit people into service organizations, whether it's a service club, whether it's a volunteer organization. And we always were pitching altruism when I was membership person. And what I learned is that there's so much science behind this notion of service. In fact, it's a theme in the Connector's Way. And that we need to get people aware of when you serve others, it is good for the volunteer or the member, both physically and mentally. And that was what my TED Talk was about. So it was a chance for me to share what I wish I had known before I started in a membership position with my Rotary Club.
That's why I liked it, because I think sometimes people see these talks, it's all about success, I did this, and this way. But sometimes we have blunders or things we don't know yet that are still lessons. You're still successful. You're still successful because you were aware enough to understand, I went this way, it didn't work this way, now I can share that with you. I love that.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I think speaking from experience is always the best way to inform others. When you stand up there as the pundit and the expert, you're just not relatable. Everyone struggles. And to share that with people, I think is a really important thing. In fact, when I talk before the InsurPATH audience, I'm going to be talking about my struggles in relationship building, which is my expertise. And so often our expertise stems from where our weaknesses were. So I think that's always a good starting point when you're teaching others, is to talk about things that you struggled with and how you overcame those struggles.
I agree. And I think right now, that's a big deal, right? I mean, that's in. I want to say it's in. I feel very Hollywood. It's in. You know, it's all about authenticity now. I mean, I hate using those words, but it really is. People need stuff to relate to, especially in business now. It's just business. Now these generations coming up are not like that. They want the work-life balance. They want to have their feelings met and heard. It's a whole different world now than it was when I was coming up in business.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Your segment is going to be called The Connector's Way: How to Lead Your Team's Relationship Building During a Pandemic.
Yes.
We'll get to that in a second. That's a good one. But in your book, The Connector's Way, which I love this, a story about building business one relationship at a time, 7 rules for building business one relationship at a time. I want to actually get a couple of things from you from a couple of those rules. I love all 7. Like, we're not going to name all 7. Let's get his book, and you can read all 7. But there's a couple I want to highlight that really did speak to me. Number 2, seek out individuals who expose you to new ways of thinking.
Yes.
That is so key.
Absolutely.
Seriously, there are things that I never even thought of until I was around my colleagues, especially during COVID. Hollywood shut down, so we had to reinvent ourselves. So I heard people like, James, what about this idea? What about? I'm like, oh, my ears are perking up. Like, oh, but it's because I was around people who were thinking of different ways of doing things, or ways I just didn't know. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all about the pivot right now in the pandemic, and how are you going to pivot unless you're exposed to people who are dealing with the same issue, and maybe because of their background, because of their expertise, they might be approaching it in different ways. So this is a great example of a rule that I learned from not practicing it. So when I was early on in my business career, I joined an organization for young business people, and I would show up and hang out with my friends in the group, people who I knew. I wasn't pushing myself to meet members in other industries and other professions. And I thought, hey, this group is worthless. I shouldn't be part of this group. And I shared this with one of my friends who was in the group, and he said, you know, Patrick, you're just like me a few years ago. Before I joined this group, I thought it was going to be great. Then it wasn't. Then I thought it was the group. And then I realized that it was me. I was showing up, doing exactly what you're doing right now, hanging out with your friends. So we met monthly, and he said, challenge yourself. He said for him, it was a rule of 5. He would never show up at a monthly meeting of the group without meeting at least 5 members or guests or the speakers or the panelists. And he said by pushing himself to seek out new connections, he grew in terms of his information. And he also started meeting people. And some were acquaintances, some became friends, a few became clients. And to this day, his very best client, Google, came about because he stretched himself to meet a new person. You just never know where that next great connection is going to come from. So when you're in an organization, just push yourself to seek out new folks. And don't always talk to your industry people. If you're an insurance person, you could get a great idea from somebody in mortgage or real estate or financial services. And so often industries get inbred. So you always have to be looking for that next idea, and a good chance it's not going to necessarily come from an insurance person.
Well, I'll tell you something. My little quick thing is last year, I got a partnership with Michael's, the craft store, Michael's. I'm also a certified professional organizer, and did it for 11 years. And they were looking, I get all these little circulars and things they send in the emails, and they were like, we're looking for people to teach crafts classes. They actually have a classroom in all the Michael's, and they pay for crafts. And somebody not in my industry, not an organizer, someone from somewhere, I think it was a lawyer, a friend of mine said, well, James, you should, they sell organizing products there. Maybe you should see if they, and like, I was like, I didn't even think about that. Okay. Pitched them, got the job, got the gig, and I was like, and all my organizing friends were like, how'd you get a thing with Michael's? I'm like, I thought outside the box. And I was around someone who was like, always thinks that way. He's always forward thinking and outside the box. It was like, and passed that on to me. It's like a regular conversation.
Such a great example. Yeah, if you try to guess who's going to give you good information, you're never going to get it right. So just always throw yourself out there, and don't limit yourself because you think, oh, that person can't be useful. Just think less of utility and more about connection and relationship, and good things are going to happen.
Love that. And number 7, I meditate every morning. But I have a show that I do where I always do my thanks and gratitude. It's be grateful. And I think, well, not in my industry, it's a little hard sometimes because you always think about what you don't have or what you're not getting. Well, that's like every industry, but I just know in Hollywood especially. Like, I didn't get that job, I didn't get that show, I didn't get that, my script didn't sell, whatever. But I always feel like for me, and I'm going to expand on this a little bit, the fact that I'm sitting here talking to Patrick Galvin, and this is something that I do for my own network, it's great. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful that I get to actually do this and not be doing something that I don't want to be doing because I have to. That's my baseline of just gratitude right there. So please, how about the gratefulness that we should have?
Oh man, it's such a huge thing. So about 5 years ago, I started keeping a gratitude journal. And this is something I've known about for a decade. And I always thought, I'm too busy for that, don't have time. And there's a professor at UC Davis, Robert Emmons, and he did an interesting study with undergrads at UC Davis. He said, I'm going to study a group of kids and just study their health, their happiness, their optimism. Then I'm going to work with this other group, and I'm going to ask them just once a week to spend 5 to 10 minutes writing down 5 things that they're grateful for, writing it down. And what he noticed over time when he started comparing the two groups is those kids who were writing down what they were grateful for, and it wasn't any grand stuff. It could be like, I had a nice conversation with my roommate, went for a bike ride. It doesn't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to be life-changing. But so often we fixate on the negative. But to give yourself the reminder to take stock of what you're grateful for, if you only have time to do it once a week, you're going to see huge differences. Now, a lot of people I know do a daily gratitude practice. There's apps out there like Live Journal. There's some great apps where you can do a technology thing. It doesn't matter how you do it. Even if you just sit and meditate, James, it sounds like you might do that, and just think about, yeah, the things that you're grateful for. You know, it doesn't seem like this big thing, but sometimes I'll get busy and forget to do it one week. And I don't really realize it until the week has gone by. You know what? I didn't write anything down. I'm feeling a little bit bummed out this week. So when you stop doing it, you sometimes notice the most. So it is a transformative thing. And I just am sorry that I resisted for as long as I did before I started doing it about 5 years ago.
Well, I always say, when it comes to us men, us dudes, emotions. Right. We're not taught to have our emotions, right? We're not taught, well, back in the days, we're taught to tap into our emotions. It was just like, suck it up, be a man,
Yeah.
all this stuff, just get out there and conquer and divide, I guess.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
learning that didn't really work. There a lot of broken men are out there because they don't have these kind of emotional attachments. And so we have to kind of learn this. And so I understand, take your time getting it. To me, well, meditation. I'm
Meditation's
51 years
great.
old
That's
with
another.
meditation. I do it every morning.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Yeah. So I think that's a great one. I think meditation is so important. I notice when it comes to relationship building, when I meditate, I try to push out extraneous thoughts, just focus on the breathing. I do a mindfulness-based stress reduction type of meditation where I'm not really thinking about anything. I'm trying to not think about anything. I'm still working at it. It sounds easy, but it's really hard. But it's so important because you start the workday and you don't have that loop going on in your head. So when you start talking to your colleagues, to your clients, to your prospective clients, you're focusing in on their issues, not thinking about yours. So you're a better listener. You ask better follow-up questions. You really understand what's driving them. And all of a sudden your business life becomes better, whether it's having a better working relationship with your colleague or understanding your customer better or really asking the right question to show your prospect that you care about them and that you're really concerned about meeting their needs, which is so important in insurance.
yes, very much so. All those points are very much so. And so now your topic, I think, is very interesting because a lot of things have changed or seemingly changed because of COVID and the social distancing and working from home. Now, companies where you didn't have telecommuting, now they're telecommuting. You may not be in the office together anymore every day, trying to work on projects. So I see that your thing is going to be talking about this whole kind of structuring, and how to lead your team during this changing world. Because also it's kind of up in the air a little bit, like how long will this last? What is, because I want people need to sign up and to take their spot. But I kind of want to just ask a general question of like, what is one thing you have found that's almost kind of a common denominator in leading a team through a pandemic?
Well, the key for this particular talk, and I'm excited that they've had me track it along the leadership lines, because when it comes to relationship building, I went to business school, a good one. My partner went to a good business school, MBAs. We didn't take a single course on relationship building at good business schools. Most people have not taken courses on how to build relationships. So if they do it well in the workplace, they might have had a good mentor. They might have been through some training program. They might just kind of have that inclination. But I think leaderships can't take things for granted. When I wrote The Connector's Way, I thought these 7 rules are too simple. And what I discovered is a lot of people kind of chase shiny objects. So I think as a leader, it's so important to get your teams to focus on these essential elements of relationship building. And as it relates to the pandemic, when I say, hey, nothing happens behind the desk, that's what I used to say in pre-pandemic days. People will say, well, now what are you going to do? Well, as a leader, you should be encouraging your team to be meeting with their clients, with their prospects, with their referral partners on a regular basis with virtual coffees. I'm now meeting more people than I did before the pandemic because there is not a single person in the world who will turn me down for a 15-minute virtual coffee. So I can reach high. And when I reach out to somebody and say, hey, I have an idea I wanted to share with you, would you have 15 minutes for virtual coffee? I have a green screen here, so I put up a coffee shop, and I get in front of them, meet with them for 15 minutes. At the end of 15 minutes, I say, hey, I'm out of time. And they'll always say continue if it's a good conversation. But I have closed more business with that technique. Now, this is something I've learned, but a lot of your employees, a lot of your team members are saying, well, with the pandemic, I can't do that social stuff. I can't do the meeting and greeting, and that's just wrong. And I think you need to challenge people to say, okay, well, how many virtual meetings can you have a week? Not to sell something, but just to connect and build a relationship, whether it's going in deeper with an existing customer or whether it's reaching out to a new prospective customer or setting up a conversation with a realtor or a loan officer who could end up referring business to you. So I think the pandemic actually creates opportunities, but employees don't necessarily see them. And I think it's incumbent upon the leaders to show them the way and to do them, excuse me, to do them themselves.
Yes, this is all free. This is Zoom. This is Zoom meetings. This is going on. This is real life.
Exactly.
In the morning. No, I would tell you that I know here in Hollywood, especially, I've actually talked to more people than I have when I wasn't pre-pandemic. It's so interesting. We're all saying how we're connecting more now virtually than we can. Everybody's like, I'm so busy. I'll talk to you later. Let's have lunch someday. But now everybody's these happy hours popped up. These are happening. So I believe what you're saying, and especially it comes from the top. The leader, everything in an organization starts from the head, starts from the top. And on a side note, your 7 things are really great in the book. I love the 7 things. They're very essential. It does start with the culture. Is the leader has to recognize the team. You're not all together. So and it's in one space. That must be interesting. That must be interesting to manage. You go, okay, well, I have them over here, and he's over here, and that over here. It must be interesting.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're doing a lot is we are working with some big customers like Fannie Mae and Banner Bank, some very large institutions, and we're working together in small teams. So we've discovered that 6 is an ideal number. We get 6 people together in a cohort, and we're focused on relationship building. And we're focused on how they can build better relationships primarily outside their organizations. But right now, I think a lot of companies need to think about bringing people together in small groups. That Zoom call with the whole team, people don't get a chance to participate. So breaking groups down and giving them a chance to interact with one another is a fantastic way to build rapport, while at the same time driving home some really important lessons that they can use to grow the business.
Well, I want people to understand this, especially insurance. It's a people-oriented industry.
Yes.
It's about people. It's about their stuff or their business or their, there's life and health and property casualty. There's always different types of insurance, but it's about them.
Yes.
It always goes back to them, the person. It goes back to the person. So we should be more personable and personal when we are working together, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a friend who writes business parables, Bob Berg. He wrote a book called The Go-Giver, and a line from his book is, people do business with and refer business to those who they know, like, and trust. And instead of selling policies, we should be having conversations that increase our likability, increase the trust that people have in us. And if we do that well, even if we're more expensive than some low-priced option out there, people buy from people. So focus on the relationship, and the sale will take care of itself in many, many cases.
It's so true. And when you have someone's trust, more yeses happen than nos. I mean, that's kind of just the gist of that whole thing. It's like, come on, we have to work on that. One thing you do mention, because it is kind of important because we're doing it right now, video conferencing.
Yes.
Because you're going to talk about mastering video conferencing to build meaningful professional relationships. So I know these things are kind of mechanical. They seem kind of funny. Like, there's no feeling in video. I know I've had some meaningful conversations in video conference. I disagree with that whole thing.
I do too. I think video is not a replacement for face-to-face. I can't wait before I can get together with customers and friends in coffee shops. But there are huge advantages in that you can meet more often with people. You could have more meetings in a day. I know you're in Southern California and traffic can be terrible. Just getting to the venue could take you hours going back and forth, right?
You're speaking my language right there, yeah.
Yeah. So, I think there's huge advantage. And then because video is easy and you can schedule a lot, I do have a sort of a cautionary thing for folks. I think when you get into a video conversation with people, it is so important, especially now during this pandemic, to not short circuit that checking in, like, how are you managing the pandemic? How's that smoky air if you're in California or I'm in Oregon? How are you handling that? What techniques have you found? And this notion that that's just small talk. Well, here's the thing. Small talk can make a big difference in establishing a relationship. So yes, you can have more meetings, but I think don't forget that even though someone's on a screen, they're not a TV personality. That's a real person. So take time to understand really what their life is about. And it doesn't take a lot of time. You could do that check-in, but just show some empathy and interest in them as a human being before you talk about what it is that you want to sell them. And I think so many people don't do that. They're immediately launching into, here's my product, here's its benefits, the features, and just take some time to get to know people.
I think also in the world of email and text messages, I want to say text messages, things that get lost in translation. You can't always tell tone. I think you can, but I'm sorry, folks, you can't. Sometimes somebody says something very straightforward. You can take it 100 different ways, and they don't get any of those ways. So I think video conferencing is sometimes the best point and best part of actually getting a point across, and seeing body language, that whole thing.
Yeah, and not just conferencing, but I'm sending far fewer emails today, far fewer text messages. I'm doing a lot of videos. So there are services out there that allow you to create a video, embed it into your video text stream. And if you have just a minute, I actually can do a video faster than typing an email, because in an email you want to sound educated, you don't want any spelling errors, anything like that. In a video, you're rewarded for tripping over your words or for coughing like I did earlier. Like, oh, this is a real guy. He coughs too, just like me. So there you go. There's your cough.
There you go.
So you know, what's great is video is very forgiving. And you can look into the eye of and you have a great piece of technology. Most smartphones have fantastic video for doing it. You might want to invest in a lavalier mic that you plug into your smartphone, but challenge yourself. Instead of sending an email, what if I sent a 1-minute video instead of that email? You're going to find, and I'm discovering, that my ratio of business success is far higher when I go the video messaging approach as opposed to text and email.
I agree. I talked to you forever, Patrick.
It's wonderful chatting with you, James.
You're amazing. And so the Connector's Way is the book.
Yes.
There's that. But the actual topic for the InsurPATH virtual conference you're doing is the Connector's Way: how to lead your team's relationship building during a pandemic. So during the pandemic, it's the pandemic. The pandemic.
Hopefully it's the only one in our lifetimes. Knock on wood, right?
We have a million of them. That's what's the pandemic. And
yes.
That's happening. The conference is on November 4th through 6th online. Go to IIABCal for details. Where can they find you? And you also have a special offer?
Yes, if they go to theconnectorsway.com, the folks at IIABCal have a special discount code, IIABCal25, and that allows them to buy 10 or more copies of my book for their team members. We also have a Connectors Way video system that they can find on that page, and if they use that same discount code, they'll get 25% off that system, thanks to the good folks at IIABCal.
Thanks, IIABCal. And I'll put that, it'll be, if you're watching this or listening to this, it'll be in the description, so you can make sure you have the right code for that. And I suggest you use it. Use it. Do it. It was good. Thank you, Patrick, for being on the show.
James, thank you. It's really fun talking to you.
It's a lot of fun. All right, so this is IIABCal Voices. We are here on every audio stream program you can think of, platform, whether it's Spotify or iHeartRadio or Google or Apple. We're on there under IIABCal Voices. Go ahead, or JLJ Media. Go ahead and like, subscribe. Some say follow, some say like. They're all different. But go ahead and do that and watch this one. Other ones are on there. And share with anybody that needs to hear this. And then, of course, we're on video on my online network, JLJ Media. JLJ Media has over 30 shows, from Star Wars-related stuff to soap operas to life coaching and organizing. And, of course, insurance. So go there, and the subscribe button. It's like down here, or it's underneath him. It's a red square, red rectangle. Hit it, subscribe, and check these out. And check out all the speakers for the InsurPATH conference. I'm James Law Jr. You can follow me where all James Law Jr.'s are sold, at James Law Jr. on all social media platforms. Everyone, please stay safe wherever you are. There's a lot of Mother Nature happening out there, so please stay safe wherever you are, and connect with each other.
Yes, connect.